I'm Nate. Blah, 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 blah. Just ate some jelly beans. Hi, my name is Nate, and welcome to Nate on Guitar. So in the last video, I talked about some alternative versions to playing chords in the key of G. And in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about each of those and how you can move the notes around in each chord to give it a little variation, a little different flavor, and kind of make things some more, make it a little more fun. So let's check it out. We're going to start in this position here. This is our G chord. This is our D chord. This is our E minor chord. This is our C chord. Root, fifth, sixth, fourth. So, okay, nothing wrong with those chords. They sound great. Let's make it a little more interesting. But before I tell you a specific thing to do here, let me get this concept out there. Every chord that you know, whether it's these ones that we're working on right here or chords that you already know, without getting into the music theory side of it, you can move your fingers around. You already are so close to so many cool versions of chords. Try experimenting. Take a G chord, move a finger around, see what happens. You know, pick one finger up, see what happens. Pick a finger up and put it down at a different spot and see what it does to the overall sound of the chord. There is so much that you can do to the chords that you already know to make them a little more interesting. Let's get into this here. All right. G chord. What you're going to find is this top note, this harmony note, it's a major third. We can move this sucker around to multiple different places. If you see what I did there, all I did was manipulate that top note. I dropped it from the third, major third, to a major second. Put it 1 fret higher to the 13th fret to sort of suspend the chord, add the major 4 into it. And I even dropped this high note all the way down to the root note. I had to switch which finger was on my bass note. So you have to figure that out for yourself, which fingering combination feels comfortable to you. Usually, I just kind of like keeping my pinky consistent on that B string. Slide it up a fret, down a fret. Drop it 2 frets by using my middle finger. Fun fact, you could make it minor if you wanted to. Drop it there. But for now, we're going to stick to G major. Let's move our chord down to the E minor. I mentioned briefly in the last video, since it's an E minor chord and you've got an E string up here and an E string down here, you don't have to mute those. You can, but you don't have to. So for now, let's not mute them. Let's see what happens here. I'm going to bring this high harmony note on the 8th fret of the B string down a fret to the 7th fret of the B string. Ooh. Gives a little more ominous and dissonant sound, right? See what I did there? I moved my middle finger note on the 8th fret of the B string to the G string. I'm still muting this D string. If I could pluck the right string, that would help. The D string right here is being muted by the underside of my index finger. You could also move and play on the 7th fret of the high E string. So you've got 2 notes that you're holding down, still muting the D string. So get a little experimental with it. Move that high note around a little bit. Switch strings, switch frets, move it around, see what sounds good to you. All right, sliding down to the D. Same thing, we're gonna move this top note around. We can suspend that note a little bit. We can raise it up a half step. A little bit of a stretch to keep the muting consistent. If you notice, when my thumb isn't muting the low E string, when I reach for that pinky note, the tip of my index finger is muting the low E string, just kind of like the same way you would in a power chord. One of my favorite versions of this is this particular voicing. So I love this D chord. 5th fret stays the same, so your root note is there. You're gonna play with your ring finger on the 7th fret of the D string, open G string, pinky is gonna stay on that. It's almost the same exact chord as this, except we're adding the 5th of the D chord in there and letting that high E ring out now. Beautiful sounding chord. There's a lot more you can do with this one too. You can move all kinds of things around. You can drop that B string note and play on the high E string, same fret as your bass note, 5th fret. E minor, D, and guess what we can do? Our C chord the same way. This was our starting position for C. Drop that harmony note 2 frets, raise it up. That one doesn't work so well, does it? I'm telling you, experimentation. You might find note combinations that work for you. Here's a 2-note version of that G. So instead of playing the 10th fret and the 12th fret, get rid of that 12th fret note, play open B string, and play the 10th fret on the high E string. G, E minor, D, C, G, E minor, D, C. So there's a whole lot you can do in there. So it's going to take some experimentation, getting used to moving your fingers around and maintaining the muting. I cannot emphasize that enough, the importance of maintaining the mute on your low E string, no matter what position you're doing. You want to hear only the notes that are in the chord that you're trying to play. Practice your muting. All right, let's move to the other position that I talked about in the last video. This is our root G chord that we're going to be starting with. 10th, 9th, open G, 8th fret on the B, high E string with the pinky on the 10th fret, muting the low E. Real quick, so this is our G. We're going to move our bass note to make our D chord. Also drop your index finger note down 1 fret. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it sounds great. E minor, we're going to play that same G starting position, but letting the open low E string ring out. And for our C, we're going to lose the middle finger, and we're going to squeeze the 8th fret of the low E string with our thumb. G, E minor, D, C. So there's some consistent fingers that you can move between all these. On your G chord, you can play with or without that middle finger. You can move it to between the D and the G strings. Same thing on the D chord. You can move that middle finger to any of these 3 strings on the 9th fret. Combined with this index finger note dropping from the 8th to the 7th fret. C chord, you know how I said drop the middle finger and play the 8th fret with your thumb? You don't have to drop the middle finger. You can keep that 9th fret on the D string there if you like. You can drop it to get that open D. You can also put it on the 9th fret of the G. You can also drop that index finger note. For any of these chords, doesn't matter if it's the G, the E minor, the D, C. Adds a little variation in color and coolness to the chord progression. So if you're playing guitar with somebody and they're playing G, E minor, D, and C in whatever order they're doing, try to match them up here. G, E minor, D, C, G, D, E minor, C. So it's a little bit of a different position than you might be used to. It's extremely useful, and these shapes are usable in more places than just this, but that's a topic for another video. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope some of this was useful. Check out NateLeslie.com, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.